Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice to see you. So, I'm playing the kind of the teaser, and then we go on stream in the next 2 minutes. So I'm just playing the teaser. Yeah. Yeah. Good
Okay.
to see you.
Yeah, nice. Good.
Okay, so we are live now for people who inspire. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, hello. Ima, how are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah, good to have you here on People Who Inspire. I'm really excited for today's episode. And I
Yeah.
want to thank every one of our viewers who has been with us throughout this journey. We started this journey last year to really chronicle the stories and the achievements, as well as even the struggles of young Africans across the globe. So, in this episode of People Who Inspire, we have an amazing young woman who is very astute as an entrepreneur and also as a business thought leader. And as we'll get to find out later in today's episode, that she's also co-author of 2 books and would focus on her most recent book that got published a few months ago. So, Ima, thank you for once again being on our platform. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. So, how's your weekend going? And yeah, how are you spending the weekend? I guess indoors.
No, actually, I took a very long walk in the park to a new place where there's a lake, and it was quite relaxing.
Wow. Okay. I think that's a good way to spend the weekend. I mean,
Yeah,
given the fact that there's this lockdown instructions and all that. So
yeah. There were
yeah.
lots of people actually.
Oh, really?
A lot, yeah.
Wow.
It
Okay.
didn't feel like a lockdown. Nobody was wearing masks.
Oh, okay. That's new.
Yeah. I think the feeling here in Cologne is quite different.
Okay. So are you currently in Cologne or? Which city are you now?
Mm, So I am in Cologne, yeah, at the
Oh,
moment.
okay, okay. Yeah, I think Cologne is quite a busy city as well. So
Yeah.
anyway, so welcome and thank you so much for really making time for people who inspire. And I'm
hmm
really excited and would get to know a little bit about who you are, and want to really get to understand your background and some of the journeys and the milestones that you've had to contend with. And then obviously we'll delve into the African book. So thank you once again. So tell me, as we want to kick this conversation and want to start this conversation, can you tell me a little bit about who Ima is and tell me a little bit how you grew up typically and where did you grow up?
So I grew up in so many places. I grew up in Tanzania and also in Nigeria, and
Okay.
so I spent half of my childhood in Tanzania and then
Oh,
my
really? I didn't
teenage
know
years
that.
in Nigeria. Yeah.
Oh, Tanzania.
Yes.
Ah,
I
okay.
lived
That's
in Dar es Salaam. I guess I learned how to say the Tanzanian anthem before I learned how to sing the Nigerian anthem,
Oh, wow.
quite
So
strangely.
but were you born in Nigeria or?
Yes, I was born in Lagos, and not like a year or two afterward, we left for Tanzania.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah,
That's good to know. I didn't know that. So, you were born in Nigeria. Tell me about, let's say, your early growing up. Whatever you can recollect as in the early days in Nigeria, and
nothing,
what nothing.
nothing.
And what about Tanzania? What was it like? If you can,
I
remember.
mean, so growing up in Tanzania was quite different, but there were lots of things I wasn't aware of. And we all say Africa is the same, Africa is the same. It's not the same. The people are very different in different regions. Nigerians are very different from Ghanaians, and they are very different from Tanzanians. And to survive in every country you go to in Africa, you always have to change to a large extent to be able to survive and to be able to thrive in that new environment.
Hmm,
Because in Tanzania you had to be laid back. You could afford to be laid back and cool, but in Nigeria you always have to be, you have to be firm, you have to be strong, you have to be, ru- rugged. Like you can't be this person who cries to mommy every time. So moving to Nigeria really helped me to toughen up in a lot of ways. Yeah.
wow. I mean, that's. I think that's. There's really kind of a similarity between the kind of Tanzania kind of way of life and the Ghanaian way of life, because I think Ghanaians are also, compared to Nigerians, a bit laid back, just a little bit compared. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
there's a
I
very
can
clear
really.
similarity.
Mm,
I
mm.
mean, Ghanaians would do very well in Tanzania. I mean, in
Okay.
East Africa generally, yeah.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
That's good to know. And so in Tanzania, how long were you in Tanzania?
About 6 to 7 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were taken there because, let's say, your parents got, like, was it work related
Mhm.
or?
Yeah, my parents were diplomats, so they
Ah,
traveled, they
okay.
moved around a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. And
Yeah.
so you got back from Tanzania to back to Nigeria, and then tell me about your schooling. So when you returned to Nigeria from Tanzania, I guess obviously you had to continue in school. So just walk me through, let's say, the high school, the university. Just
I
tell
mean,
me how it was like in school.
moving to Nigeria wasn't just a situation of um should I say a change in country, but it was also like a change in financial status because my dad is 50 years older than I am. That means he had to retire earlier than most people's dad. And I sort of like after that shift, we I mean, I didn't just have to deal with the culture shock, but also like the financial shock because we moved from a private American school to schooling in a $1 a semester school. And so it was, you go from a school um, where you pay like maybe $10,000 a semester, and then you go to a school where your school fees was $1 a semester.
Mm.
So just to give you an idea of the level of shifting that we had to do, not just psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, everywhere, and that's why I think that this this part of my story has helped me to be a very adaptive person. So I can adapt to wealth, I can also adapt to poverty, but it's not
Mm.
like it's the best thing that should happen to you. But at the same time, like Paul said in the Bible, that whether it's in poverty or in wealth, I mean, he knows how to survive.
Mm.
And so this is an essential skill that that situation gave me, and I had to deal with the new way of people talking and bullying. And first of all, my accent was the
Mhm.
first problem, and
Yeah,
people
exactly.
were making fun of the way I talked. I had to learn how to talk very slowly so that people would stop saying that I'm talking like I have yam in my mouth. So uh
Oh my
so
God.
yeah, so I had to like really, really adapt, and that's where I think sometimes we become so much concerned about our what our environment thinks about us that it's really annoying that you lose yourself, you lose
Mm.
the value that you are, the importance of what you have. You
Mm.
think it's a curse to actually be talking like that. I mean, I could have been a broadcaster if I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to talk so slowly.
Mm.
And and so that was my first lesson. And then dealing with bullying, and every day they were beating me in school. I never had that in my life, but I mean, this is a public school in Nigeria. You
Yeah,
can
in
get
Nigeria.
flogged. And one time I was beaten so badly, my hand cut in two. And
What?
I took it to the headmaster and I was complaining, and he was like, I don't ever want to see you in this school ever, in this my office ever again. If somebody punches you, punch them back.
What?
If they slap you, slap them back. If they insult you, insult them back. And I was like, it was at that moment that I knew, man, I'm on my own.
Mm. Exactly.
I really knew I was on my own. And
You
at
have to
that
be a
point, I just
fighter.
wanted to leave school. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So just that culture shift and financial
Mm.
shift, and now having to work, even as a young person, I mean, 12, 13, I started to work for my mom and, try
Wow.
to see that, this, I mean, in that position, I started to learn a lot of sales skills and all sort of survival skills. And,
Mm. Wow. And I think
yeah.
you touched on a very important point for me, because I think for most people watching, sometimes when we go through difficult situations, we kind of, think that, okay, this is happening to just me. But
Mhm.
and that's why I like having people like yourself share your story,
Yeah.
because then someone watching gets to know that, look, we all have times and moments in our lives where we go through such difficulty. So, I mean, you've shared a very important point where there was a shift in both economic, social, even psychological situation for your family, and you had to endure this when you go back to Nigeria, and surviving in the school system. Now, I want to know, with this change in financial situation, what was,
Mhm.
let's say, the big lesson that you learned, from your parents at the time? I'm sure they also, tried to kind of encourage you and to, give you some indicators that, things have changed and we need to adapt. Was there any lessons that you gleaned at the time?
I mean, you don't need your parents to tell you that things have changed, man.
Mm.
When the color of your tea is no longer the same, Like
Exactly.
you won't need somebody ringing a bell. Hey, times have changed. I mean, the mere fact that you are in this school where it's not the international school. You don't have the white teachers. You don't have the white classmates.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have this pep talk where, hey, things have changed, man. It's more or less like you just have to hit the ball rolling. Like you just have
Yeah.
to get going with it, go with the flow.
Mm.
And that really, really helped me to remain true to who I was, and also helped me to survive and to be firm and be strong
Mm.
and understand that this is this is just um, a starting point, and
Mm.
everything you owe to yourself. I mean, my mom also was the person who could really adapt, because wherever she goes, she was, wherever we had issues, she always made sure she had money in her pocket. And the only way
Okay.
she could have money in her pocket was by trade. So she was making clothes. She opened a fashion store in Abuja, and then she started to become a distributor, and I would take the items to the market and I would sell, and it was so interesting because my mom now won the highest distributor in the country
Wow.
from those sales. I mean, I used to take like a whole basket of stuff, go into the market, like 20 minutes later I'm back, it's filled up again, I take it, and I was like a superstar salesperson. And then my siblings would like hold the same basket the whole day. And they were
Wow.
wondering, what the hell am I telling these people that they're buying from me? And I would keep coming back to the car like every minute, and
Mm.
my dad
Mm.
saw that it was really giving us money from
Mm.
that, and so he used to drive us to the market every I don't know when. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just going into the market, sell it, come back, go sell it, come back. And so I feel like these were just like skills that helped me to survive anywhere, you know.
Mm.
There is this thing that, and that's why I say, even if you drop me in the middle of Texas, come on, I'm going to survive. In the
Mm.
middle of nowhere, I'm going to survive because I understand that nobody owes me anything, right? And I have the ability to create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And the opportunities don't always have to come in a white collar job or in a situation the way you would want it to look like.
Mm.
But things change, and you are capable of creating the future that you want from nothing,
Yeah. Exactly.
from absolutely nothing, but by just seeing the opportunity there. And but as I grew older, I finished. I was working before I got into school. I started selling Christmas cards. I was earning more than my first salary before I got into university,
Wow.
and just by living that sort of life and that
Mhm.
mantra whereby I would see an opportunity, I would see any opportunity and take advantage of it. And
Mhm.
at some point, my sister got married and I went to stay with her, and her husband was like, "Oh, you're not allowed to sell anything in this house. You're too young, blah blah blah." And I would just wait for them to go out to work, and then I would take my bag and I would
Uh,
disappear. And once it's time, I would make sure that I would take the fastest means of transportation back home, just to get
exactly.
home 5 minutes before they come in. And then I start sweeping the floor, and they're like, "Why are you always doing this in the evening?" And then
Wow.
they're like, "Are you trying to show us that you're hardworking?" I mean, I'm like, if you know where I've been the whole day. Yeah, so I try to encourage people, like, it's not to stop seeing the obstacles. It's not just something that I tell people, but it's actually something that I live by, and trying to see how you can overcome the barriers and overcome the setbacks that you have before you.
Wow. And I think it's so like the reason why I'm really smiling is that most of the guests I've had so far, have had similar, experiences where
Mm-hmm.
they'd had to kind of grow up, let's say faster than the actual age. So at a very young age, they had to really become mature. So you've mentioned really your entrepreneurial, let's say, adventures starting quite early, obviously due to the situation as you rightly mentioned. But if you look back, for example, how do you think that situation has influenced you to become the person that you are today? Looking back.
Mm. I mean, it made me fearless. I
Mm,
mean, people's worst fear is poverty, but that is the least of my fears because there was a time my former boss CEO said, if you don't sell this property by next month, we're going to reduce your salary by 20%. And I was like, oh my gosh, if this guy only knows that I've lived with $20 in my pocket for 2 months, he wouldn't threaten
you
me
did,
with this.
yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I told him to his face, I said, I am not negatively motivated. I am
Mm,
positively motivated. Tell me that you would give me $1 million if I sell the thing. So it's made me fearless and bold. And what's the worst that could happen? The worst has
mm,
already happened. So what's the worst that could happen? It has made me enterprising. It has made me believe that you can be poor today. I mean, I was in a boarding school one morning with in a terrible boarding school with
mm.
no food in my cupboard, and the next moment I was shaking hands with Stella Obasanjo. The next day, this thing, I
Wow.
mean, Stella Obasanjo and is the former president of Nigeria's wife,
Mm,
and I was in a room with Obasanjo, with the president, the vice president, the ministers, and I was
wow.
there at becoming the youth minister from just, and I believe that those experiences made me to know that it doesn't matter where you are at the moment, and some things happen for the best. I mean, sometimes you need that friction in your life to be to improve, because
Mm,
if life is so smooth sometimes, I mean, I'm not the one that will preach that hardness brings out the best in you, because sometimes it doesn't. It brings out the worst in a lot of people. But
yeah.
hardness doesn't have to bring out the worst in you. It could also bring out the best in you, depending on what you use the hardship to do, what lessons you use. And
Mm,
also, if you refuse to be bitter against the people and the things that happened around you at the time. And it also made me to be sympathetic, because
mm,
I remember one time I was talking down on it, another poor kid, and he was like, "You're just lucky because you came from this family, you
mm,
know?" And I was like, that stuck with me for life.
mm,
You have no right, like it has that humility effect whereby I can associate with anybody. I can
mm,
associate with a billionaire, and I can also have a nice conversation with a beggar on the roadside,
mm,
because in each case, I remembered those words that
mm.
you could have been that person.
Yeah.
You did nothing to be born in the family that you were born in.
Yeah.
And it is just a privilege for you to be there so that you can speak out for the people that cannot speak out.
Mm, mm,
And that's where the balance in life comes in, when we realize that God sometimes gave me this experience both because I know a lot of rich people that cannot relate with the struggles of poor people. When you hear
yeah.
them talk, and I'm like, sometimes I have to remind my friends, like, hey, look, there's somebody out there complaining that they don't have food to eat tonight, and you're complaining about something really dumb, and you're
Yeah.
falling into depression over some crazy thing. Maybe you
Mm,
have a Porsche and your friend has a Bugatti, and I'm like, somebody is even praying for a wheelbarrow right now to push their
mm,
cassava to the farm or to the market.
mm,
And
mm,
so it teaches you to be appreciative of what you have and whatever situation you're in, and also to make the best use of every situation.
mm,
And thank God for technology. I mean, technology is the reason why we're both here. I mean, we're all here. And technology has given us a vast amount of opportunities.
Mm.
I was telling you about a friend that made $100,000. He's in the village right now in one
Wow.
day.
Wow.
So with the opportunities out there, you just have to search. You have to, I mean, irrespective of your degree. And the other thing I noticed was that the more educated I was, ex- the less risky I wanted to, the less risk I wanted to take. Like
Exactly.
it was sort of
Exactly.
like I was like always trying to calculate one plus one must equals to two, and then you now write a a very fancy theoretical thing, and then it doesn't sell. And so
Exactly.
it's like you have to put in that you have to be street to an extent, you know, to an
Mm-hmm.
extent you
Mm-hmm.
have to be street, and that it means that you are ready to bet on something
Yeah.
as if your life depends on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do, like they say, never lose your hunger, because at some point when you have a roof over your head, salary in your pocket, you lose that hunger. You are
Yeah.
no longer that person who would stay up till 4 a.m. And a lot of people are trying to start up their businesses and they are in their day job. And I say, you that will take a very long time to do
Mm-hmm.
because you are in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But you can still adapt that hunger. Even
Mm.
if you're working, even if you have a job, you can still adapt that hunger if you have laser sharp focus on your dream.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I still think of that hunger and I still think about what I do about, I mean, those images have not left my mind. I'm still thinking, what can I do for the people in this same situation? I think
Mm.
about the school that I come from because sometimes somebody needs to be in that environment to speak to lift that environment. And if that person is you, we are lucky,
Mm. Mm.
you know.
You've mentioned three key points that I like to really reiterate for our viewers. You did mention that irrespective of how bad things get, right? You
Hmm.
said that looking back, the three things that I learned from what you've shared is humility. You mentioned which is very an important, let's say, trait that these days it's quite rare
Hmm.
to come by people. I mean, in this age of self-made deism, if I should put it that way. People, always want to create the impression, that everything they have, is self-made. So there's really sometimes this, pomposity that comes with having to achieve something in life, um, and yeah, just to mention that. So I think Ima has some technical issues, so she's gone off. But yes, I'm sure she'll come back in a bit. The second lesson that she mentioned that I like to also kind of reiterate is that yeah. So the second lesson that I picked up is that you mentioned something also quite important, that it kind of similarly bad situations help you to become more empathetic, so you are able to understand, people who have been in similar situation, and you're able to relate even better. And the example you gave about the person telling you that, oh yeah, you come from a good home, so that's why you are talking like that. I think it makes you more empathetic, like you rightly said. And the third point, the third lesson that you mentioned, which I think is absolutely important, is that we should make use of every opportunity or every situation that we find ourselves in. So I think for me, these are the three key things that I picked up from what you've said. So from there, you went to the university, and now let's say, can you walk me through post university? So what happened after university, and how did you get to Germany?
Okay. So I got into university like 5 years late, and then I pushed through. I came out as best graduating in my class, and then afterwards I did some research. But then I said to myself, I started my fashion business, but I kept saying to myself, there is more. Like I can't be doing business the way this person that did not go to school did business. And so I went to work for a company and I said, okay, maybe I will learn structures and systems. And I worked there for 2 years. I kind of like doubled my salary in the first year.
Mm,
because I was already really good at sales, and I went in as an assistant. I just wanted to get my foot through the door.
mm.
And I became I man at the end of the second year or third year, I was managing one of the businesses that they were running, which was a hotel. I had no hotel management experience, but I took this hotel to its first profitability in the first two
Wow.
months. And the hotel had been running for some years. And I moved on from there at the end of May, and I found out that okay, I want to be on my own now.
Mhm.
And then people started calling me for like business development, like contracts to help them turn over a business. And I did that one, two businesses, and I started getting a lot of referrals. And then I my business was born accidentally, and it was good because people were having like triple of their revenue in the
Mm,
first 1 or 2 months of consulting with me. And I thought, okay, I have a good business model here. And then it was still that desire of there is more.
mm.
So I never believed in online opportunities. I never searched. I didn't even bother because once you apply for Yali in some year 2000 and something, and they deny you, you just feel like, oh, I don't think this online thing is for me. I think they're looking for a specific type of people,
Yes,
and I
yes.
am I am not that type of people that they are looking for. So I didn't apply for online anything until once my sister sent me a link and said, "Oh, Ima, you should try this thing." And I just said, "She has been sending me millions of links before then, honestly."
Okay, okay.
And this particular link, for the first time, I decided to apply for those things. And I got it, and I got into the competition, and I won. It was a national competition. And I said,
Okay.
wow, so I've been really wasting my life here. And I thought, okay, I should apply for a lot of things. And I started to apply for anything. I'm not kidding you,
Kind of boosted your
anything
confidence.
online. We even created a WhatsApp group where anybody that finds anything should drop it there. We will all apply for it, me and two of my friends. And that was how it was going. Like we were applying for anything, just anything under the sun. And so when the rejection letters started coming in January, it was like raining every. It was like a rainfall. And
Oh,
so then I got this call to come to Kenya for the Africa Com Fellowship, and I was like, oh, finally, 1 year after 1 million
oh,
no's. And
so
then I went
okay.
for the assessment center. And the same weekend, I had a job interview. I also got the job in Nigeria.
Ah,
And when I
wow.
came back, I resumed at the job I got in Nigeria, and I didn't hear from Africa Compt for some while. And after that, I just quickly um worked there for a few days, and then I got the letter from Africa Compt on the worst day of my work experience there. It was actually the best timing because that was the day we were hosting Google, and everything that could possibly go wrong under the face of the earth happened that day in the event center. I mean, Google is such a big client, you don't want to lose it.
Exactly.
And the electricity went off, the generator
Oh
went
no.
bad, the internet was not working. I mean, what then we have
Um,
an event center for? And everything went bad, and I was running
wow.
around like a headless chicken, around with the facility manager and the sources, and just me running down the staircase. I saw the letter from Africa, the email from Africa Comms, and I
Mhm.
was like, and
Finally.
I was like, just take a moment to breathe because I was thinking, thank God my escape is here.
Mm,
And,
exactly.
escape from that particular situation
Mm,
because there is a lot you can try to do as an individual working in at a company. And I try to tell people, I mean, I'm this kind of person. I've sacrificed a lot for any company I work for. There was a time I didn't sleep at home for 4 months to manage the hotel. I was actually there live, day and night. I didn't want nothing to go wrong under my eye, under
wow.
my watch. And so I'm very dedicated to my work. I'm very, into it. And so when things go wrong like that, you feel very um incapacitated or like a failure.
Yeah.
And so I left. As I got the letter, I was like, oh, phew. But I wasn't like super happy, like some people would be super, super duper happy. And because at that moment you're dealing with World War. And
Yeah,
so
I know.
I got ready and I just went outside, I took some fresh air and I continued running around like this chicken. And so yes, I got into this program, the Africa Compt program. I think you can check them out on
Yeah.
africacompt.de.
So maybe
They
can you
open every year.
summarize can you summarize what the Africa Compt program is? Maybe in a sentence or two.
Okay, coming from you, I'm really surprised. So, so Africa Comps program is a yearly fellowship where African professionals get to work in Germany for a year. They, of course, take a 3 months German course and also international management course.
Mm,
It's a program that allows you to experience working in Germany and also contribute. And there's also opportunity to continue working with the organization after
mm,
that, but sometimes you don't have that opportunity as well. But I think generally it's a good path for anyone who wants to have this international experience and also work in a new environment and learn a new language. I think it has a lot of positives and also has its own downsides, but I think the positives are worth the try. And there are every year we have about 30 to 40 or 50 participants of the program. It's very, very competitive,
mm,
and you have to have had at least 2 years of work experience
mm,
to
mm, mm.
participate. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So
And
so
so I served at Festo Didactic in Germany. I worked
uh-huh.
there for 9 months, and
Which
we
company?
had Festo Didactic.
Okay, okay.
They're into they're into educational equipment, so
Mm, mm,
equipments for mechatronics
mm.
or learning
Okay.
STEM courses. So it was a really nice experience, and I really got to open my eyes to see the problems we have in our educational system, because they
Yeah.
provide like technical education equipment, and
Uh-huh.
these things are taught theoretically. Even
Yeah.
basketball is taught on a piece of paper sometimes
Mhm,
in public schools. And so it takes me back home to think of what are we doing wrong. We have the
mm,
possibilities for the solutions there. I mean, there are so many opportunities in Africa to be poor.
mm,
There, I mean, opportunities to to be rich rather, not to be poor.
mm.
But there are also opportunities to be poor if you don't do the right
Exactly,
thing.
exactly. Yeah,
and, so,
exactly.
and so you have to really see through, like, there's so many problems. It's not
Mm,
like here abroad that before you think of something, somebody's already doing it for like 20 years ago. But in Africa, there are things that you think of and they are not even being done, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
Like for instance, STEM education, we don't have enough materials, we don't have enough resources, we don't
Mhm,
have enough teachers. What can we do to solve this with the technology that we have, with the knowledge that we have?
mm,
And we think we're not confident in what we know. And that's what I learned from schooling in Germany. And I realized that what you know is enough. It's not about what you even know, it's about what you have done or what
mm,
you are doing with what you know. The little that you know, what have you done with it? You want to
exactly.
keep piling more knowledge on it. And I saw that knowledge is like diminishing returns. The more you know, the less you can use, because
Mm,
it becomes too much.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you start becoming confused. Should I do this? Should I do that? And then you make it so advanced that you are disconnected from the reality of Africa. This is what we
exactly.
need.
Mm,
I mean, look at these guys that create robots for teaching STEM. They are making a killing profit on that.
yeah.
You just need to think a little bit more. You just need to think about problems
Mm-hmm.
that are
Yeah.
worth it. And what inspired me, this is what inspired me to write the book African. because
Yeah,
I felt like our stories are not being told. When I come here, the first thing I saw in Germany was every corner. I see African children on billboards, help
exactly.
the poor in Africa. And I'm thinking, does this child, first of all, let's not even go to what the child is doing. Does this child know that he's here in Germany collecting money for somebody?
Mm,
And his picture is being used, and I think to myself, if these people are really helping these poor people, why do they still look poor? I
mm,
mean, the mere fact that a child is looking hungry is the fact that you are not doing your work.
mm.
I should be seeing children that are well fed, well clothed, well educated on your
True.
brochures, not the other way around. And I thought to myself, when you speak to the average German, he's like, oh, I mean, it's the one that is not exposed mostly. He would
Exactly.
say,
Yeah. Sure.
something like, oh, does this happen in Africa? Do you have ice cream in Africa? Does it
Yeah.
rain in Africa? Does the sun, I mean, are you people burning to death? I mean, a lot of questions, a lot of things, and these things I figure are lies that they've been fed by media and by these NGOs to extort monies from people. They
Exactly.
extort a lot of money from rich people to tell them that they are helping the children in Africa, to vaccinate them, to do this, to do that. And I mean, several times people have asked me, how come you speak good English? And I mean, the expectation is so low
Yeah.
of the African people, and I thought to myself, maybe not only is it the Germans that are having this issue, the Nigerians are also having that. The Ghanaians are also
Exactly.
looking down on themselves. And I
Exactly. Yeah.
noticed that when I was about to manage the hotel, my boss told me the only way he would let me manage the hotel is if I had white skin.
Really?
My name, yes, he said that to my face. He said, you can only manage this hotel if you have white skin.
Wow.
And so he went around looking for white skin. Meanwhile, I was managing it ad hoc. By the time he appeared with one white skinned person, he now showed me and he now said he's going to sign the deal. But I said, before you sign the deal, can I see how much this guy is offering in terms of projection? And what he
Exactly.
was offering in terms of the first year remittance to the company was what I was making a month, what they were offering for 1 year. And I
Wow.
just dropped it on his desk and I walked out. And I think that said it all.
Mm.
Because of our
Wow.
lack of confidence in our youth, our talents, our abilities, and all of these, it's so it's so amazing
Mm.
that a lot of times our main problem in Africa is not the white, is not the foreigners, it's ourselves. We don't give ourselves the opportunity
Mm.
first.
Mm. Mm. I think that's a very profound. So that's very profound. And for me, I mean, this brings us to the African book, because when you first described the project, the vision you had for the project and everything, I was really fascinated, and that's why I did not even think twice to get on board. So you are now in Germany, and you are motivated to write the book. The one of the African proverbs that really motivates me for people who inspire, like you rightly said, is that until the lion learns to ride, tales of the hunt would always glorify the hunter. And
Yeah.
although the lion is the king of the jungle, it's always the hunter who comes out to tell the narrative. So
Mm-hmm.
you've rightly mentioned that there are really giants in Africa. They're really young professionals who are at the forefront of making great impact. And this
Mm-hmm.
this is what you've chronicled in the African book. So can you share with us, first of all, the you've told us about the motivation behind the book, but can you tell us some of the stories? Maybe you can pick one or two stories, or one or two people you featured in the book, and how these stories really amplify the vision that you have for the book, in general.
So we featured quite different people
How many
across
people? How many
different.
people did you feature?
So we featured 48, but to get down to 48, we actually interviewed over 60 people.
Wow.
And And it was quite remarkable because we had a lot of stories of people that grew up in war, for instance, and they had to survive through the war, and they had to, go to school where it seemed impossible,
Mm,
impossible in terms of financially and otherwise. They had
mm,
to struggle, but that wasn't just the story. There were stories that of people that came from wealthy backgrounds too.
mm,
But it's important to go through this book with a mindset, with an open mindset, in terms of there are lessons that you learn from business, for instance. There are lessons that you learn uh, from being tenacious. Okay, so I take a story, for instance, of Adenubi.
mm-hmm.
And Adenubi was an influential lawyer, and she schooled in the London School of Economics, but
Wow.
she had a high flying career
Mm-hmm.
as a lawyer, as a corporate lawyer, and worked with some of the big law firms. But she came back to Nigeria and saw an opportunity. I
Wow.
mean, it would be ridiculous for you to live a very glamorous,
Exactly.
New York kind of
Mm.
career to go back to a village in Nigeria
Nigeria. Mm.
and set up a fashion outfit. I mean, she because she realized the problem she had was that she could not find any factory that
Mm.
makes clothes to the standards that she would make. Instead of going to China to make clothes, for instance, she thought to herself, okay, there's an opportunity here. There was a
Wow.
factory there that wasn't being used by anybody for years, and she wanted to buy this up. She
Wow.
wanted to buy over the factory. Maybe she did a joint venture at the end, but it was just that desire of seeing an opportunity
Mm.
in an environment and seizing it
Mm-hmm.
for her. And so it's sometimes we think that our greatest opportunities are in New York or in but there are people in New York that are being called to go to your village,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Yeah.
There are people in New York. I mean, I have a friend that just resigned from um, a big five firm as a managing partner. He's
Wow.
resigning to work for an NGO in Africa.
Wow.
Now, and he's German. And so you see that there are people who are having this call and desire to change Africa.
Mm.
If we could just have 1% of our population look around the environment and think, what can we really bring out? And that's the whole point of African is to inspire people to help. And even the people I mean, most of the people we featured in the book are people that have a strong desire to see Africa progress.
Mm. Mm.
One of
Wow.
the people we interviewed is one of the top 100 influential people in Africa. And
Wow.
his story starts with just entrepreneurship. You start with business. He starting making website for people when he was in university. I mean, the hustling spirit was there. And
Wow.
now his business just got $25 million in funding some months ago, last month.
Wow.
But it starts somewhere. It
Mm.
started understanding that with technology and with Africa's problems, take anything, join the two of them, you have a
Mm.
killing. He said, okay, I am not focusing on anything. I mean, his story is in the book, Onyeka's story.
Wow.
And he's he said, take whether you're making hair, add technology to it. Whether you're selling food, add technology to it.
Mm.
How can I deliver 1 million meals a day using technology? So he
Wow.
just focuses on three sectors: agriculture, I think finance, and one other sector.
Mm.
And that
Wow.
what he does with those sectors is just that he doesn't see himself as a farmer using technology. He sees himself as a technology expert using doing something in agriculture.
Mm.
And now he has created a platform that funds thousands of farmers across Nigeria
Wow.
by co-investing. I think you
Mm.
know Farm Crowdy.
Yeah, Farm Crowdy. Oh yeah, I know Farm
Yeah.
Crowdy.
And so he has been able to create these opportunities and this lifestyle. And so that's why I thought this book is a good opportunity to show people their blueprints, because we see a lot of people up there and we think, okay, how can I be like this person?
Hmm.
And sometimes their story is so long that you can't really follow it. You might get missing along the way, and sometimes you might not even relate to these stories, you know, because
Yeah,
you
true.
think that this person went to Harvard University at age of
Exactly.
18 and had all the
Hmm.
opportunities, and I mean, this story is not for me. And I was reading, and I grew up reading a lot of books. I read close to 500 books before I turned 20 or so, and
Hmm.
these were business related books.
Hmm.
And at some point you find that you can't really relate to these things. You just have knowledge without a blueprint.
Yeah, yeah,
How
exactly.
do
I
I
can relate.
connect myself, Ima, here with Mark Zuckerberg's story, with Seth
Exactly.
Godin's story, with Bill Gates' story? I mean, I'm reading all these nice books, these motivational books, but I'm here in Africa. I'm here in Nigeria. There's no electricity. Let's even talk about the basics, you know? So before we go into the advanced thing, so like I mean, just being real here, because I believe a very good proportion of us can relate to the story, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not, but at least those in Texas can relate to not having power for
Yeah.
some days. And it is it is it is what they would see as horrible there for just a few days is a
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle for some people. I
Yep.
mean, we don't have light for years and it doesn't make the headlines, you
Yep.
know? And yeah, because it's not freezing cold, but we need power to survive.
Uh,
We need power to thrive, and we need power for our businesses. People are dying because there's no power in the hospitals too.
exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, these are just take a sector, take any sector. I'm telling you, there is opportunities in every sector, education, agriculture. I mean, power. If you can solve Nigeria's power problem at a cheap rate, for instance, you are a billionaire already,
Yep.
at least in Naira. And you and and you just take one sector. You don't need to be do so many things. And with
Mm.
technology, you can beat any cartel, because
Mm.
the problem with a lot of countries, especially in Africa, for instance, we have one big cartel who has power, exclusive political
Yep.
backing in that
Yep.
industry. And so it makes it difficult for people to penetrate. And so we want, I mean, technology makes it possible to penetrate anything.
Uh,
You
exactly.
just have to be creative, and you need
Yeah.
to understand the market, understand what people like.
Yeah.
You know, a lot
Yeah.
of people are on social media, on Instagram. Go where they are, find them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 And I can relate with I mean everything you've said, and I mean also in relation to the book, that these stories, that you have captured in this book really, first of all, are quite very relatable. So for whoever is able to grab a copy of the African book, you would go through really 48 outstanding stories, right, from diverse backgrounds, diverse sectors, and you don't just get inspired, but you are able to relate with the journeys of these young Africans who have been chronicled in the book. And just to mention that if you are watching people who inspire today, and you would want to place an order for a copy, a digital copy of the African book, just go to, on the screen, I've already projected the website. So it's www.africanebook.com. I hope I got it right, Ima,
yeah,
the website. So it's www.africanebook.com, right? I already got my copy. You should visit the website and get a copy. What I believe strongly in is that no man is an island. There's a reason why some people go ahead of us. And the idea is that for those who have gone ahead of us, or for those we look up to, they serve as a source of inspiration and they serve as a source of motivation. And second of all, the mistakes that they committed, if we learn from their journeys, we are able to avoid those mistakes in the first place. So there's no point in kind of repeating generational mistakes. So these people who have gone ahead of us, we are able to learn from them as well. So make sure you grab a copy of the book, the African book, and go to www.africanebook.com. So Ima, just to wrap up, so let's say ask, so what is the ultimate next step for the book, right? So you've captured fantastic stories, right, of 48 outstanding personalities, outstanding young people. What is the next step? I mean, are you going to make a movie out of it? I mean, what is what is that what is that
No,
next
so
step for this book?
So yes, we have tried to animate one of the stories, and it was really good.
Mm.
And we hope to do more of that, to tell the stories in oral tradition, because I mean, this is Africa. We
Yes,
prefer
yes,
the talking than
exactly.
I mean, it's more preferable to do the visual than to do, I mean, the audio version than
Mm.
to even do the reading version.
Okay,
um,
I love
we
that
are
idea.
very, very visual in where
Yeah.
we come from. And so that's our next step. And we also want to interview some of the people that have been part of the project. We also want to do programs in the future to help young people, to mentor young people through the book. And I
Wow.
think that every story has a way of taking you light years, because when I was reading, I mean, like, working on the project, I
Hmm.
realized that we have a lot of, we could save a lot of time and energy from from just learning from other people's story. And I am glad because I have a team also of
Hmm.
fellow Africa Comes fellows that were part of the project, and
Yeah.
they really supported in editing. I mean, every night we were awake editing
Wow.
the book, and I mean, four amazing women stood with us. We were four at the end,
Yeah.
and even those that were not part up until the end, but a lot of people helped us do the interviews, and
Mm.
this couldn't have been possible without their input and without their help. And I'm telling you that from this project alone, people say Africans don't support Africans, but I think there are still a lot of Africans out there that would push you to get your dream to come to pass. And also, don't be afraid to reach out to people, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm.
Just put out the vision there, no matter how silly it sounds, no matter how
Yeah.
unfinished, because people are always thinking, let me write my vision and make it plain. Sometimes you don't need to make it plain, you just need to have the vision and explain to somebody who can make it plain for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I had a good team that did work, did support in writing the book, in editing the book, in doing the interviews. And even sometimes when I got discouraged, they kicked me to stay on track. And so that's why they say, if you want to go far, go with someone. If you want to go fast, go alone.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I mean, that's a very that's a very important. I mean, recognition in terms of teamwork.
Yeah.
I like that approach, and also, I mean, recognizing the other co-authors who really supported and made sure that the book came to fruition. If you watching the People Who Inspire episode, we've really delved into the personal journey of Ima. I mean, she's talked about her time in Tanzania, coming back to Nigeria, the economic and social change she had to adapt herself to. I mean, together with her family, and ultimately we looked at the new book that she launched a few weeks or a few months back, the African book. And as I mentioned in this book, she and her co-authors have captured and chronicled the success stories and the journeys of 48 young industrious Africans whose life's journey would be a source of inspiration for you if you're watching People Who Inspire. So if you want to grab a copy of the book, go to www.africanebook.com and definitely get a copy to support the vision and also to get yourself inspired. So Ima, what would be your final words as we wrap up today's episode?
So I would say that everybody's dream is valid.
Mm,
It just depends on what you do with it. And it
mm,
depends on your ability to take risk. And you have to be willing to let people laugh at you. Because
mm,
I know a lot of times the reason why people don't move with their dreams is because they are afraid of what people will say. They are afraid that what if I fail? What if you
mm,
fail? You learned a new skill. So so don't look at the failure. Don't let the failure put I mean the fear of it, but also look at who you are and
mm.
always take who you are and the lessons you've learned and where you come from. No matter where you go to, always remember where you come from and take those lessons with you all your life. Be
Wow.
audacious.
Yeah.
Be, I mean, I when I said I want to interview 100 people, the first reaction is like, Ima, you've gone crazy. And I said, yes, I want to do 100 people. I could get to 100 people if I wanted to. Then the book would be so big. But then dream high, dream big, and don't give up on that. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but you've heard don't give up several times. But trust me, every single day of working on your dream, you will feel like giving up. You would feel like maybe I should just get a job, or maybe I should just do this. And sometimes
Mhm.
you have to fall away, but look in the mirror and remind yourself why you started.
Wow.
As simple as that sounds, it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
yes,
mean,
I had one last thing.
yes.
Actually had a vision board some years back, and
Uh-huh.
I put it in my room. And every time I wanted to give up, and I look at the vision board, I'm like, no, I can't give up now. And and honestly, I have just 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I have ticked off 50% of the stuff on my vision board.
Wow.
And it wasn't by sleeping, or by
Mm,
wishful thinking. But first of all, the vision had to be in front of me.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
helps you to get through the down times. It helps you to get through the times where you feel like you are not going somewhere.
Mm, mm.
But the destination, it's not a destination because the vision board keeps changing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, of
yes,
course you have to evolve. Yeah,
where it's a
yeah,
journey.
yeah. Thank you, thank
But
you,
make
thank you
sure,
so much. Yeah.
one last thing, make
Mm-hmm.
sure you have fun along the way because that's
Yeah,
10% of
it
who
gets
I am.
stressful. So if you don't have fun, then
Yeah.
you give up. Yeah. So thank you very much, Emma, and thank you all of you who tuned in today. And if you're going to watch this stream later, I want to thank you even in advance for being part of today's episode of People Who Inspire. Once again, as I always mention, that the mission is to get you inspired, to get you motivated, and to get you to wake up from your comfort zone and to get started with that vision or that dream that you have. It's been a great time talking with you. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors as well. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your weekend, of course.
Thank you, Prince. It was so
Okay.
nice being on your show. I really
Yeah.
appreciate what you're
All
doing and
right.
the impact that you are making.
Thank you. All right. Ciao. Bye bye.
Ciao. Bye.